Hey, profs. Welcome on in. My name's Rob Lightfoot, proud two-time alum of Rick Edelman College of Communication, class of 2000-2001. This is Beyond the Brown and Gold.
I'm Jessica Kennedy. I'm the co-host here, also a two-time proud Rowan alum, class of 2008 from the Rick Edelman College of Communication and Creative Arts, and 2015 from the College of Education. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Rowan Radio 89.7 WGLS FM presents Beyond the Brown and Gold, a show that highlights the lives and memories of Glassboro State and Rowan University alumni. Now, here are your hosts, Rob Lightfoot and Jessica Kennedy.
On today's show, we have a very special guest, Alumni Board President extraordinaire, and so much more, Gina Lemanowicz Pusloski.
Never heard of her.
Stop it. Class of 2003.
We know her pretty well.
We know her very well. We have some shared roots of the radio station, obviously working in the alumni office. I'm very familiar with Gina as a very active alum.
I was connected to her when she was a student here.
I didn't know that you were connected to
Yeah.
her as a student, so that's kind of a fun little tidbit that we discuss. But we also discuss so much more than there. We do talk a lot about Rowan in this interview because it's such a big part of Gina's life. But we also talk a lot about Gina's extracurricular activities, which include travel, yoga, nonprofit. I mean, she is so busy and fun and has so many areas of interest that she gives back to. So we're just so grateful that she gives us time and that she was here with us today.
So, Gina, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, Gina you're a big deal here on campus, and we're going to uncover many things about you and share that with the listeners because we know you pretty well.
Yes, very well.
So, Jess and I have known you for a couple of years, but we're going to act like we don't know you.
Okay.
And
that's going to be really hard.
I know.
Yeah.
But we don't know about like her spelunking and her tours that she does.
Yeah, no.
No.
Well, she's a lady of many missions.
I'm a Renaissance woman, so
yes.
you know.
You are, but you do travel a lot. So.
I do, yes.
We know a little bit of background about yourself, but one of the things that I do know about you is Rowan was not your first school.
No, it was not. It was actually Seton Hall University, which also has a radio station there. And
Were you on Pirates Radio?
I was, but it was definitely a different experience there than it was here. There wasn't a lot of, at least as a freshman, there wasn't a lot of, I was basically like a glorified intern, lack of a better word.
Did they not, you couldn't go on air?
No, I answered phones. I mean, I don't know eventually. I didn't last that long there to ever find out. But no, I just answered phones. It was, again, it was a major market, and it was like comparable to some of the bigger stations in New York. So it was more of a pseudo alumni student, but more kind of professional, I guess professional if you want to say that. But I actually learned much more and had a much better experience here at WGLS. And I'm glad that I ended up here instead of there.
But it was your unique circumstance that brought you to Rowan.
Yeah. So I was at Seton Hall, beginning of spring semester of 2000 when the fire happened in the dorm rooms there, and that was actually my dorm. Gosh. Yeah, it was pretty tragic and upsetting, and I just didn't feel comfortable living back on campus. Back then they didn't have requirements that dorms have sprinklers, and that was what sort of precipitated that whole thing, but they wouldn't guarantee that going back into the spring semester after the fire. So I said, I need to just move on. I wasn't exactly the happiest there anyway. So I never applied to Rowan. I tell this to a lot of people because they're so surprised because I am so pro Rowan and such a fan of the university. But it was close to home, and I grew up about 20 minutes away. So I didn't apply. And so I just took classes here for spring semester, made up some classes at the county college in the summer. And then I went and applied and became a full-time student my fall of my sophomore year. So that's sort of how I ended up here. But honestly, one of the first things I did when I came to Rowan and was looking at it as a possible school was come to the radio station because, I had done it at Seton Hall and I wanted to stay involved. I'm the type of person that likes to stay involved, and I knew I was going to be a communications major, even if I transferred here. There were so many people that were so welcoming here. Our former general manager, Frank Hogan, current general manager, station manager, Derek Jones, and of course, Mr. Lightfoot here.
I happen to train Gina.
He did.
You did?
I did. I trained Gina.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Connecting the dots.
Yeah.
So being in the radio station is a very familiar place for you, but you said you were you're not used to being on like the interview side of the mic. You've been
No, I'm really nervous. And I between my professional and my, I'm getting sweating here. I'm pulling up my sleeves. Between my professional and my volunteer career here at Rowan, I've probably done thousands of interviews, and I don't get interviewed very often. So this is a weird feeling for me. I don't know. I'm usually the one prepared asking the questions. I don't.
Well, we're not that prepared.
No.
So don't worry.
I mean, like, look at my paper. I got nothing on here.
So don't worry about it.
Just take some notes. It'll make me feel better.
You're in good shape. So how long were you at the station before you started to get like really, really involved? What roles and responsibilities did you take on here?
Well, I started at the station. I guess it was my spring semester of my sophomore year I trained. So that would have been in 2001, the spring semester of 2001. And that's when Rob trained me. And then I passed my station test I guess maybe a few months later. And then back then, I don't know what the rules are now, but you had to do a daytime show before you could do a specialty show. However, they needed some people in the summer to do some programming on the weekends. So I did a jazz show there, did my daytime shift. And then I eventually took over the Sunday Broadway show, which I have now been hosting for 22 years.
That's so
21
wild.
years, something
That is
like that.
wild.
Yeah. It's wild that I wanted to get up at 6 a.m. as a college student, and I still do it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you build a base up. There's a lot of people that listen to the show now.
There are,
So it's like a great family that you've grown up with.
And it's really cool. I get requests and text messages or phone calls from people who have been listening for 20 or so years, or like kids who I had this one little girl who would call in and request, and she always requested the same like Disney shows and whatnot. And she was probably 8 or 9 years old when she started, and I heard from her about 5 years ago, and she was graduating college. And I'm like,
That's cool.
that's a lot. That's a lot of fun. And then while I was here, I also was the traffic director, scheduling all of the grants, the air, and the public service announcements and all that kind of stuff. All the business side, I guess, if you can say.
The air traffic.
The air traffic,
yeah.
yes.
The air and not the
yeah, it's still confusing when you say
it's-
air traffic.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not landing any planes or anything. But yeah, I did that for 1 or 2 years, I think. And so I was, and I never really left. I did take 1 year off. My friend who went to Rowan took over the Broadway show for 1 year right after I graduated, as I was trying to like figure out career and living situations. And then, because she was a year younger than me, when she graduated, I came back, and I've been pretty much doing it ever since.
You make the best of your time here, because occasionally when it's warmer out, at least you'll stay back and get a run in, or beforehand. Like, what's your schedule there?
Oh no,
'Cause you enjoy
afterwards.
running.
I do enjoy running, but no, the runnings are I'm not a morning runner, so definitely not running at 6 a.m. So I get done my shift at 10, so then I'll go for a nice little 3-mile run around campus, or if I need to go on a longer run, I'll head over to Pittman area.
You're practicing for that 5K all year.
I am. Actually, I've been out of running shape recently, so I've been getting back into running shape just for the 5K, so that I don't embarrass myself. And
Yeah. Well, it's colder out, so it's hard to do. So I'm a little fluffier than I want to be too. Yeah.
You call Gina fluffy?
No, I mean, I wouldn't do that. Oh, let's talk about that cheese board. So let's go back to your college years, and tell us about sort of your career trajectory post Rowan.
So I was a communications journalism major here, and I did love my experience in the College of Communication. I loved writing, but after 4 years, I just felt like it was not 100% what I wanted to do career-wise. I kind of wanted to stay close to home, and in a lot of the communications fields, you really do have to travel all over the country to get your name out there. So I was a law and justice minor, so I decided to go more the law and justice route, and I started interning with the state of New Jersey as an investigative intern between my sophomore and my junior year, and I pretty much stayed on and then just got a full-time job as an investigator with the state, and I've been doing that for 22 years almost in May. So
You constantly watching like LA Law growing up?
yeah, I was always a big like crime show, and it's funny because I watch them now, and like I'd sit there and pick apart everything that's wrong about those shows and what they portray versus what they actually do. But I've had an interesting career of investigating all kinds of different civil violations, everything from insurance fraud to sort of the inspector general type realm. Also now I'm currently investigating some people who are not very law abiding in their practice of law. So so I kind of do I do a bunch of different things over the years, but I always felt like my communications degree was really vital to what I do professionally, because finding the story, getting the who, what, where, when, why, and how of journalism is pretty much what I do as an investigator, just sort of in a different realm. So Rowan definitely prepared me for that. And my experience here at the radio station, as we said before, I've done interviews where I was the interviewer, and that actually really helped me prepare for my current career as well throughout the years. So I can't say enough about my Rowan education. It was definitely the best choice I made to come here. Unfortunately, it was a tragic, incident that it led to me coming here, but I'm glad that's where I ended up.
Did you ever live on campus, or did you commute while you were here?
While I was here, I commuted. At first, obviously, understandably, I was a little apprehensive about living on campus after my Seton Hall experience. And by the time I felt comfortable living on campus again, I was pretty much probably a junior, and I just decided to go the route of using that extra funding to get my graduate degree rather than stay on campus, because I had so many friends here. I would stay with them in their apartments or come to different events anyway. So for me, I didn't need to live here every single day in order to feel like I was part of something, part of an organization. And I only lived 20 minutes away.
So as a fellow commuter, parking lot A was huge for us. And for the alums listening to the show now, parking lot A is no longer. I mean,
it's still A. Do you know that?
But it's not. Is it really?
Yeah, it's A and A1. That's the business lot now. Yeah, that's A and A1. So it's still A. It's just like a mini.
It's like a lowercase A now. Before, it was even hard to get in there. Before there was like a size of a mall parking lot, and most of the commuter students would park there.
Yeah, and you had to stalk people to go to their car, and I that is actually a great skill I learned here at Rowan, is how to find a good parking spot.
So along those lines, can I tell a quick story? This is probably going to put me on some of your radars in the law department. But what I would do is I would get here early before campus, and if I found a student that would come out on a trend, I would write down the car, the color, and their license plate.
To get their space?
I needed to see their space. So I figured, all right, this cat's leaving at 11:15 every day, or every Tuesday and Thursday when I needed spots. I would look for that car up and down. And while everybody else was hunting like sharks, I would just look for that car.
That's actually really smart.
What if the kid wanted to get lunch or something that day?
Well, then I was out of a parking spot for a while.
He was just using statistics to find the best possible parking spot.
It's analytics, baby. That's all it is.
And then, if A was full, you had to go park by the railroad tracks. Yes. I don't know. I think there's a lot there now. I'm sure you'll probably ask me this, but I am also now a teacher at Rowan. And I was just telling my students about that. I said, I was telling them about how it was sort of when I was on campus, and there was not even a coffee stand in the pit. And now they got Starbucks and all. I'm like, you guys don't know how good you have it here.
And 3 renovations. There's been 3 student center renovations inside that cafeteria there. Mm-hmm. So now you teach at Rowan. What class do you teach?
I teach white collar crime in the Law and Justice Department.
And then you're also very involved in various opportunities with the Alumni Association.
Yeah, so I'm currently the president of the Alumni Board. I've been doing that for about, a year and a half now. It's my last term, but I've been on the board since 2016. So yeah, I'm just pretty much Rowan all the time.
Yeah, Gina's kind of like a star alum. She gives back, she attends events, she volunteers. So it was when she applied for the Alumni Board, it was hello, how do we not get Gina on the Alumni Board? She's incredible and does so many awesome things. Why did you choose to stay so involved with Rowan?
Well, I will say, honestly, when I first graduated, I didn't really stay that involved. And that's something I sort of regret now, but I think it was sort of needed. I needed a little bit of a break from, because I was involved as a student. But when I came back, I just wanted to give back so much to Rowan that I felt like they gave to me. When I came here, like I said before, it was kind of really scary time in my life. I had just had a really traumatic event in my previous college, and I was coming to a new college where I didn't know anybody. All of my friends from high school were now going away to college and not home, so I didn't really have any friends that were accessible. And I was just so welcomed here, and I felt like it was just something that I had to do when I could. So I knew someday I'd be able to, financially support the university and support the university with my time. And so when I was able to finally do that and had some extra time and I had the ability to give back, I just wanted to get involved. And I still kind of do that. I do that. I'm kind of sad. One more year on the board. I'm sure I'll end up back on the board sometime in the future. But kind of sad. It's ending in the next year and a half or so, and that my presidency is ending. But I hopefully that I made a difference, and that I think we have a great board and a great leadership team that will take over. This is an exciting time to be part of Rowan. There's so much going on. There's so much growth. Dr. Hushman has such a vision for the university. So I don't know why anyone wouldn't want to get involved, especially alumni. So,
but and Charles, your husband, is also an alum.
He is an alum.
You talk about giving back. we had a great meeting that you have a scholarship with us for a student. You want to talk about?
Yeah, sure. I just started a scholarship with my husband last year for the Law and Justice Department. He was a Law and Justice major. I, of course, was a minor. And he was a first-generation college student. So he really wanted to make sure there was an emphasis on that. And I will say he was my first recruit to come to Rowan University. I was here. He had gone part-time. He was at various different schools, but he had gone part-time because he had to work full-time. And so I was a senior when he was accepted into Rowan. So we only crossed paths on Rowan's campus for about a semester. Yeah, he had a great experience here too. He was involved in Rowan EMS. He felt the same way as I did about being able to give back. We're at a point of our lives where we can afford to do that. I was fortunate enough to have great opportunity for my parents set forth with me by, helping me and paid for my college education. And I know that some people don't have that ability, have to work full time and or may not choose to go to college just because they can't afford it. And I don't think that should be something that we have to, we have to talk about without giving people options. And so we decided to go set forth this scholarship, and we met our recipient the other night, and she's amazing and a hard worker and a really good student, has some great goals in life. So it makes my heart feel good to know that someone who, is really trying and really wants to make something of herself and is very obviously very dedicated. I can help that person. So I'm sure we will expand upon in the future. But I love giving back. We just had a Rowan Gives Day a couple days ago, and the Rowan Day of Giving is always a good time to remember to give back to the university. But with the scholarship, we're able to do that continuously, throughout the year. So
there was so much overlap because I was in the meeting with the student. With your story and the student's story. The student had gone
to Seton, a mini Gina?
Had been to Seton Hall.
Yeah, she went to Seton Hall. She was a transfer student
in
too.
your building, lived in your building.
Yeah, she lived in my same dorm building. That
the overlap was crazy.
Were you like, this is weird?
That's talking to yourself, right?
Yeah.
And that when we got the letter about, her background and everything after we started the scholarship, I'm like, this is, I don't want to say everything happens for a reason, because there's a lot of bad things that happen. So maybe not a reason, but there's like a purpose in life. And my purpose, I guess, was to come here and now be able to give back to a student who had a very similar situation to me, in the sense of just not happy there, had some family issues she had to come home for, but now she loves it here and she's doing really well. So it was definitely weird, but I think there's definitely some fate in there as well.
We'll have more with Beyond the Brown and Gold when we return. Welcome back to Beyond the Brown and Gold.
Now, if I know anything about Gina, now she's going to have all this extra free time.
I know. What are you going to do?
She's going to fill it with something.
Oh, yeah.
We haven't even touched base on some of the things Gina already fills her free time with.
Well, that's what I have written down over here.
My non-Rowan stuff.
So let's talk about that, because here's the thing. Is Jess and I talk about this a couple times. We're like, is this like the funnest crew ever? Is this not the most fun crew? I don't know what the proper English is there.
What do you mean, like us? I don't even know if I'm following your English.
No.
I'm like, wait, what are you saying?
No, I'm saying Gina and Charles are like the most fun crew to follow.
Oh, for sure.
Are they not like the most fun crew to follow online?
Yes. Yeah, well, they're always adventuring.
They're always adventuring. And it's like...
I live vicariously through them. I'm like, where are Gina and Charles this week?
Yeah. This week, like today you're in Glassboro.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. I get excited when I go to Ben Salem. But they turn the corner and she's, I don't know, you're RVing somewhere in some Tennessee.
Yeah. Well, we do like to travel. We have an RV we purchased during the pandemic. So right now it's still a little too cold to bring that out of winter hibernation. But
do RVs hibernate?
Yeah, you have to winterize them. You can't. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You have to properly winterize it so that you don't have your water lines don't freeze and possibly burst during the winter. I mean, I guess if you live in Florida or something that doesn't get really cold, obviously, then you don't have to do that. But obviously, living in New Jersey, we have to do that. So we have some possible national parks we want to hit this year. Maybe the Balloon Festival in New Mexico a little later in the fall. I don't know. We haven't really.
But where have you been though? You've been
we've been a lot of. We put a lot of miles on the RV the first couple of years we had. We've been. I guess the farthest place we've been in our own RV. We rented one a couple times before we bought one, but I guess in our own RV has been Utah. So that's a good hike. That's a good 4,000 mile trip. Yeah, 5,000 mile trip.
How do you guys navigate that? Like, are you splitting time driving it? Do you like driving that thing?
It's a good lesson in marriage therapy, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you really have to like somebody to drive to like that far with somebody.
Yeah, and
I love Brian, but I always say like we love each other, but I don't think we could work together because we're very different personalities in that way. So like to get in an RV with someone and just go hours and days and days and days, like.
it's definitely a lesson in patience. Charles has much more patience than me. I will 100% give that to him. So he probably makes more concessions than I do in that sense of being with somebody for 14, 15 continuous days in a 35-foot RV. But yeah, I do drive it. I drive a lot for work, and I have over the years. So I don't really love driving. He kind of enjoys driving. So he takes, I would say it's about 60%. I have to drive about 40%. But that was one of the main factors we thought about before we bought the RV was like, would I feel comfortable driving this 35-foot monster on the highway? Yeah,
pretty big.
It's not. Yeah, and then and trying to park that thing is not easy either. So that's always something we have to take into consideration. But we've had some interesting adventures. We ended up on some guy's ranch in Wyoming with when they say that it was a highway, I can't explain it to anyone that's never really, if you've lived your whole life in the Northeast, you don't understand what they mean by a highway in the middle of Wyoming. It's kind of like what we would consider an impassable dirt road.
Is a highway?
Yeah.
Were you in somebody's driveway by accident?
Were you loitering?
I wouldn't say it was a driveway, to the point of we took a wrong turn and I was using an old school map, and apparently because you don't have
rewind. Well, why are you using a map?
Because you don't have
GPS.
Because you don't have cell service.
What?
And so
is that a thing?
we did at the time. This was one of our first
world
trips.
Do you speak of?
We didn't have the RV GPS maps that we have now. We obviously purchased them when we bought the RV, but this was our first trip and we had no cell service and pretty much did not know where we were. We took a wrong turn and we were on a road that apparently just was never finished. So it was on my paper map, but we ended up on some guy's ranch, and I've never been so happy to see a guy show up in a pickup truck in my whole life. And I knew that Charles was a little nervous about this point about where we were because he never asked for directions, and he was like, "Oh God, we got to ask this guy for directions."
Was the guy nice?
Oh, he was super nice.
Okay.
So he actually took us through his ranch to get us back.
Get off of my ranch.
To get us back.
That's how people in Wyoming sound.
I don't know what they sound like.
He took us through his ranch to get back onto this so-called highway, because in order for us to turn around, it was tough terrain anyway, he said it would probably have taken us 3 hours to turn around to go back to the road. So that's when I say we're in the middle of nowhere. That was
wow.
And there was apparently a creek crossing that he wasn't think we were going to make.
A creek? Is that like a creek?
I think it's
is that like Dawson's Creek?
Yeah, I don't know what
it's a creek. Yes, okay. That's how they say it in Wyoming. That's a legit way they say it.
Good to know. In case I'm there, I want to fit in.
Yeah, I can see you going there. I can see Brian going there. I can't see you going there.
He always. I think John Mayer lived in Wyoming for quite a bit of time.
There's a reason enough to go.
So I'll be there. But yeah, No.
I love the open sky country, so I would go out there.
Yeah. Brian would love to go out there. That's something I think we would like to do is maybe the boys get bigger is kind of vacation like that. Right now it's just like Disney and then vacations to a beach without them so we can sleep.
Yeah, not much for little kids to do out in the middle of.
No. And I'm not going to put very little kids in an RV and drive that many hours. Talk about driving each other nutty. That would be so fun.
I don't know. It's you'd be amazed how much of normal life you can fit into a 35-foot RV. But
what are you doing when Charles is driving all that time?
I'd be eating.
Yeah, we always have snacks. I'm usually in the passenger seat because I get a little car sick when I'm sitting at the dining room table or on the sofa.
So all the benefits of having the RV and you're still sitting.
I mean, I can lay down, but if I'm going to read or something, I have to sit in the. So we'll listen to music. I'll read. Just enjoy the scenery. Depending on where we are, we had done a lot of traveling in Europe and in other places on cruises and whatnot. And during the pandemic, we were like, well, we can't really go to those places. We want to see America. We just thought it would be during retirement, but honestly, I'm glad we did it. We did it now, so we have the opportunity to see so much of America that we didn't know existed. My goal is to hit 50 states before I turn 50, but currently I'm at 45 and I'm only 42. So
I think you're in good shape. Wait, where have you not been?
Idaho, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Montana, and North Dakota. We can do it in 2 trips. We were looking to go to New Mexico at some point for the balloon festival. That would hit Oklahoma and New Mexico because that's obviously the southern trek. And then,
do you count if you just drive through, or do you have to have
you have to do something?
Okay, so does eating count?
Or going we went through Kansas and we went to the Oz Museum in Kansas, which is a museum about all things Oz. Everything.
That sounds awful.
Do you have a fear of it?
I can't stand that movie.
Oh wow.
Well, I do host a Broadway show. So
sorry. Yeah. Oz, like the HBO special, maybe.
No, it definitely wasn't about that. Everything from The Wizard of Oz to all the Wiz and Wicked and all the remakes of it throughout there. So it was kind of cool. It was exactly what you would expect in the middle of Kansas. So we did that, but we didn't stay in Kansas. So I would count that Kansas.
Okay, fair.
Now the big challenge would be to get the RV to Hawaii.
Yeah, you'd have to put that on a
ferry.
I don't know if that's even a thing, but
Yeah,
I have been to Hawaii previously, so via a plane. So Alaska and Hawaii are obviously knocked off the list. They're I think the hardest ones to do. So maybe we'll hit the northern ones.
But let's talk about your international travel, because that's what I get
She's
excited about.
well-traveled.
She is well-traveled. One of your future trips coming up is to?
Amsterdam. By myself, actually.
Which is very cool, by the way, because
I know.
Gina just goes, yeah, I'm going.
But I'm going. I wanted to go to the Tulip Festival, actually, since the pandemic, 2020. I was sort of planning to go there. It happens during tulip season, which is the end of March to the middle of May. And obviously that didn't happen during the pandemic. So my friends who I normally travel with just don't have an interest of going, or they've been there before. And Charles is not, it's not high on his list, so I'm just going to go by myself. So I'm headed there. I'm also going to do one day in Paris because I just love it there, and also one day in Bruges, Belgium, because if I'm already over there, why not? And I don't know how to plan a trip without packing a million things into it.
So of your Broadway show experience, right? Let's just go there because you love the Broadway shows.
I do.
Favorite Broadway show? Like what's one, like if somebody said like, all right, you're going to be locked in the room for the rest of your life and you have to listen to this soundtrack, soundtrack. Like which one are you picking?
Oh, it's 100% Rent. I don't even have to think about that.
Really?
Yeah. Rent.
Is that still out though? Is Rent still out there?
No, it's not still on. Not still on Broadway. I mean, it's had a couple of revivals, but Rent was probably, I started doing theater in high school. I did a lot of backstage stuff, makeup, costumes, etc. And that was my sophomore year of high school is when that musical came out, 1996. And so it was kind of a coming of age musical at a time when I was coming of age. So it kind of just stuck with me for some reason. And that's definitely the one I've seen the most. I've probably seen it over 15 times in various iterations. Of course, I've seen the movies and the live or not so live TV special. And I would still go back to that one. I would say that one. My second one was probably Cabaret, only because that was the first musical I worked on in high school when I did makeup for that one. So that kind of also has a special. So for me, it's more about sentimental shows. I love Hamilton. That's a great show. So kind of a coming of age musical in itself too, with Lin-Manuel Miranda, the creator of that show, really took on a whole new way we see Broadway shows and the way we cast in Broadway shows. And 6 is my new favorite. So I saw that.
I've heard music from that before, but I haven't seen it. Have you seen it?
I've seen it twice. I saw it once on Broadway in August or September, and then I saw it on a cruise ship as well. So and the production on the cruise ship was just as good as Broadway. So that's saying something. But it was it's just a fun show. It's the feminist in me really likes that show because it's basically, just to give the listeners a background, it talks about the 6 wives of Henry VIII. So you always hear his story and his side, and of course Anne Boleyn and got beheaded and all these things. But they kind of
spoiler alert.
Well, hopefully someone remembers something like that from high school. I don't know, high school history class.
I didn't know.
It talks about it from their perspective and kind of gives the power back to the women. So I really like that aspect of it. Plus, it's just a fun show, and so I do play that on the Sunday Sounds of Music.
I'm most impressed by her travels, Jess.
I know. I'm really jealous of all the travels.
Isn't that cool?
Wait, there's a difference between jealousy and envy.
Yeah.
So jealous is you feel like the person doesn't deserve it. I learned this because I thought it was important. And envy means that you're jealous, but you're not in a vicious way.
So
I'm envious.
Okay.
I'm envious of all her travels because I think she's been so many amazing places.
She just picks up and goes. You literally will be texting her one day and she'll be in the state of New Jersey. The next day, she's out in some other state.
I know. We're going away, not really going away, but we're going to see Hamilton this weekend. And I happened to mention it. She was like, oh, here's 3 restaurants right near the theater that you can go to. So yeah, I'm not that kind of person that's really I like to travel, but I could never do it as often or as independently as she does sometimes. So I just think that that's a really neat trait to have. We're so happy to have her. She's been such an awesome alumni board president. We've been really blessed to have her, and we're sad that her term's coming to an end. But if I know Gina, we're going to see Gina again on the board.
Yeah, I don't think she's going anywhere.
I don't think so either. I think she'll roll off for a little bit, take a break, and I think we'll see her again.
Just another cool Rowan alum we talked to on Beyond the Brown and Gold.
You've been listening to Beyond the Brown and Gold on Rowan Radio 89.7 WGLS FM. You can find more episodes on your favorite podcasting platforms by searching for Beyond the Brown and Gold or Rowan Radio On Demand.